Ichi-Joji, which is a Buddhist temple at the foothills of Mount Fuji. And many people come here to meditate. I'm lucky enough to be cooking in these gorgeous gardens. Now I'm going to be cooking a dish that's very familiar to me. It's a stew. I love cooking stews, but with Japanese inspiration. This is pork shoulder, and you can see there's a lot of fat on it. This is fantastic for a stew because it's going to keep it really moist and tender throughout the cooking process. Now I'm just heating up a pan and I'll add some oil. In Japan, a hot pot or a stew pot is called a nabe. So I've taken a little bit of inspiration from the flavours from that to create this stew. So vegetable oil that's heating up, and just to thicken the sauce, I'll add a little bit of corn flour to the pork shoulder. You could also use pork neck, which is also called Scotch fillet, or a little bit of pork belly is fantastic with this recipe. All right, into our saute pan. Now don't overcrowd the pan when you're searing off the meat because it will start to stew before it needs to. What we want is caramelization. So I'll also add a little bit of salt and then give that about 2 minutes on that side and then turn it over and then cook it for another 2 minutes until it's golden brown. Now while that's happening, we can get onto the veggies. Just some classic veggies, some onions. It is a stew, so I'm keeping everything a little bit rough. So cutting our onion into cubes. And this is going to go in after all the meat has been caramelised. Along with the onion, we need some sweetness from a carrot, which I'll just cut into the same size as the onion. Ensure they're all roughly around the same size so they cook evenly. And let's have a look at this meat. See how that's caramelised? Beautiful. And then I'll season that again with some salt. Now for a few more things to go with this, a lot of ginger. I'm talking about a 4 to 5 centimetre piece of ginger. I'm going to cut it into very thin rounds. Because this ginger is so young, it's not going to have an intense hot flavour to it. Instead, it's going to be quite mild. And then again, after a long cook, it's going to become really soft too. A great addition to a stew like this. All right, this pork is looking fantastic, so I'm going to take it out and cook the last batch. Okay, this pork is coming out and there's still a little bit of oil in my pot, which is fine because I'm now adding the onions, the garlic and the ginger, carrots, and that's going to caramelise and soften. Give it a quick saute. Now I'm going to deglaze the pan with some local Shizuoka sake, 3 to 4 tablespoons. Allow that alcohol to cook off and then I'll return our pieces of pork along with all those juices because that's flavour and that's going to give us a really nice sauce. And now I've noticed in Japan that everyone uses turnips. I adore turnips and they're fantastic in stews like this. So I've just given them a really good wash. I'm not going to peel them at all. And I'll cut these into sixths, just into little pieces, and they can go in, scatter them into the stew. Now for some shiitake mushrooms, fresh shiitake, along with some honey, 1/4 cup of soy sauce, and some good old mirin. They love mirin here in Japan. And then this is not enough liquid to cook this slowly, so I have prepared a dashi broth. Yes, it does have a slight fishy flavour, but it's got also a smoky, earthy flavour, so fantastic for a stew like this. And then once this has been cooking for about 2 hours, it really will give it that depth of flavour that a normal stock wouldn't give. So just enough to cover all of the ingredients. This is a little bit unusual for Japanese cooking, but this is something that I've learnt through French cooking. A little bit of orange zest really makes this into a unique stew. So slicing maybe 3 or 4 peels, and now I'll cover this just with a little bit of baking paper and then cover it with some foil. And now if you're at home, pop the lid on and cook this at a low temperature for about 2 hours. Even better, pop this in the oven, 160 degrees for 2 hours until the meat is soft and falling apart. This smells so good. And in the last 10 minutes of cooking, I added a little bit of Chinese cabbage and I've allowed it to wilt away. It's still a little bit crunchy, but that's how I like the cabbage. All right, to serve this up, a nice big bowl and a generous portion of the stew. And then I like to serve this with a big bowl of rice on the side and a garnish of fresh spring onions. After coming to Japan, tasting their food, this is what they eat on a cold winter's night, a delicious stew with pork and many different flavours.